Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Kensington Creates. I'm Deborah, and I am so happy to have you with me for another episode. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who watched and responded to my last video. I had been away from videos for a while, and it was just really great to reconnect and get to hear from people and hear about the projects that you've been working on. And I really appreciated that warm welcome back. So thank you for that and your patience as I was on that hiatus for a little while. Today is actually Thanksgiving here in the United States. I'm filming early in the day before it gets too crazy, and I hope to have this video up for you probably by Friday. But I also should say it is a gorgeous fall day here. I was just out kind of putting out the bird seed for them to have their breakfast. It's just a gorgeous day. But it is November, and do not be confused by the fact that I still have my October sign up. I'll get into that in a little while, but I just didn't take it down. And I figure, I mean, other than me and the internet at large, who's going to know that it doesn't say November in the correct month? And of course, I have a Christmas mug. So we're just going with all of the seasons and celebrations right now. That's okay. That's how life goes sometimes. But I've got a bunch of different content to show you today. As I'm kind of coming back from this hiatus, one of the things that I have been thinking about is just the pace of the videos and what is something that is sustainable for me. And I think, at least for now, for a while, I don't know how long that will last. I think I'm aiming for monthly videos. That's really something that kind of, what have I been working on in November, in December? And there may be a few other videos kind of scattered around. I know we are heading into kind of Christmas season and whip parades and all of those, so there's a little bit of extra rhythm there, but for the most part, I think kind of monthly progress reports will be what you're seeing from me for a little while. But lots to show you today. I've got a number of different cross-stitch projects. I'm going to talk about kind of some of the things that I do to keep up with my craft, which is really just like creating floss drops in this particular case. I'll give you a highlight of some advent calendars that I'm going to be opening this season, and I've got a little bit of book talk for you. So hopefully a good variety of content for you as we go through the video. And as always, of course, a little bit of coffee since we're filming in the morning. So what have I been up to since my last video? I did mention I think I had just come back from the Stitch New England retreat, which is a fantastic retreat that Pam and Kevin from Stitch New England put on each fall. And since the last video, I have now been to the farm as well. This is Stitchin' at the farm at East Hill Farm up in Troy, New Hampshire. And this is like an unretreat. It's kind of a retreat in that everybody there is there to cross stitch, but it's really not a planned retreat in terms of there's really nobody who organizes it. Everybody works directly with the farm in order to book your space and to reserve and all of that. There is a smalls exchange that Lynette puts on every year, and then Randy from Roll and Stitches does bring her shop, so you can come and shop. There's a freebie table. So some of the things that you would expect of a regular retreat are there, but other than that, it is just an opportunity to kind of quietly and casually sit and stitch and catch up with friends and eat lots of really great food because it's always very good. And so I always enjoy that one so much. It's just a different, slightly different change of pace and an opportunity to really sit and catch up on things. I definitely made a lot of progress this time. That's most of the stitching that I've done is work that I did at the farm, but always a good chance to do that. And it was just a delightful time to be there this year. It was a little cold, but I've gotten in the habit of going on a daily walk, and so I also got to just explore the property a little bit more than I have in the past. It's just a beautiful space to be. So, all right, I think with that, I will launch into kind of showing you what I've been up to recently. I am excited because even though I finished one specific project, it's part of a series that I was working on in order to actually create a finally fully finished object. So that's exciting. So let me show you first what I have finished, and that is this Mill Hill kit called Apple Cider. I really find that I enjoy this ornament size Mill Hill kit rather than the larger beads. But buttons and beads projects, I think these are very doable, they're very portable, and you get that sense of accomplishment a little bit quicker. So I definitely gravitate toward the ornaments as the style of Mill Hill that I like doing, but if you feel differently, let me know in the comments. That is totally fine. This is just kind of a conclusion that I have reached about my personal stitching. So despite the fact that there was quite a lot of just gray stitching in order to make that chalkboard, I find this just to be a really beautiful little piece. The back stitching in particular really highlights and accentuates it, and kind of those details make the project in this case. So I worked on that one, started and finished it at the farm, but just sitting down and plowing through it. But what I am happy about is this is now the third fall piece, fall Mill Hill ornament that I have finished. Give me just a second and I'll pull that up. If I remember correctly, you saw this one recently as well. And this one is, oh, I think Autumn Apple Tree, maybe? Apple Harvest. And so I had never worked with these really large beads before, so those are fun little apples. But I've got this one with that little autumn kitty cat keeping his eye on everything. And that is the third of this piece that I worked on last year, which is Fall Mailbox, also by Mill Hill. I have slightly gotten further along in that I have trimmed the perforated paper on this one. But with that, it gives me 2 vertical and 1 horizontal piece. And the reason that I am excited about this is because how I'm planning to finish it. Quite some time ago, as I was doing a little check at Michael's for little things that they might have that is good for finishing, I had picked up this little foldable block set. Obviously, it is from Valentine's, but what I'm planning to do is to take off. You can easily just remove the hinge on each of these, take it off so that I have 3 of them, and then I'm going to repaint it so that it really fits any pieces that I want to mount onto it. Probably some sort of like brown wood tinge, I think, because I think it will just go with a lot of different things. But so cut it down to 3, paint it brown, and then what I will do is I can just mount pieces on it so that I have a triptych. And then my intention is that I will also do 3 pieces for each season. So I've got summer pieces, autumn, etc. And this is the first of those that I have actually finished as a series, which means I can fully finish it and actually get it out on display. So I have been working toward that for obviously over a year now at this point, but it is good to have it done. I do have 1 Christmas piece finished, so hopefully do at least 1 more this year, and then maybe next year we'll find out, but at least I've got enough for the fall piece. And I was thinking about that too, like I'm not in, even though I have the idea, I don't have to make myself rush to get them done. I don't have to feel like it's autumn, I have to get all 3 so that they're ready and they're up, and it's okay. They will be here next year, and I can give myself the chance to work on it and the time it will take to do it, and that fits my schedule. So I think it's perfectly fine if it takes me a while to get that series finished. In the end, it will be done, and that's great. But I am excited to have at least 1 done, but I'm not going to just feel like, oh gosh, now I have to get the other 3 seasons ready and out. I mean, obviously, as you look at my October piece, sometimes I'm just happy to have them done around the time in which it would work. But anyway, another start and finish that I had at the farm was an older Heart in Hand piece, and that was this little one called Celebrate. And this came as a kit, so it came with 20 count linen to stitch on. It didn't come with the floss, but it did come with the linen. And obviously kind of a birthday series. And I had picked this up at a shop. I think it may have even been on kind of a discount table because it's an older pattern, but I really enjoyed those colors. And it also came with the buttons to complete your piece as well. So I did get that done as a start and finish at the farm as well. And I will say again, this is a very small piece. The stitching went quite quickly, but I did feel, accomplished in that I had a start and finish there. I did make, you'll be surprised to know, I did make a couple of changes to it. Even though I like the birthday cake, I didn't really feel like I needed to specifically say celebrate, because then I would feel like you could really only bring it out if you're actually celebrating something. Whereas this, I feel like it's never not a good time to have a piece of cake out. So it gives me a little more flexibility in terms of length of time to display it, is what I was thinking. And so I just removed those letters, kind of created that straight edge. And then just to give it a little bit of visual interest, I made it an arched um, top rather than that straight across top, which I think is great. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to finish it yet, but ooh, the morning sun. Not 100% sure how I'm going to finish it, but possibly on some sort of tag that you can actually like hang. Maybe it becomes the annual birthday like bag tag or something like that. Who knows? But like I said, this one was stitched with 20 count linen, which means it's quite large. And I did use most of the called for floss, which were weeks. And then I substituted in a few that I didn't have. And it's called for using 6 strands of floss. So it is quite large and thick in terms of the stitching, which I think makes it look a little bit messy, but I don't care. And I do like that you do get that subtle variegation in some of them, and those buttons really just make it a fun little piece there for, in terms of that little three-dimensional thing. So another little finish that I got through at the farm. And then the other piece, I did actually have a couple of finishes, which was great. Excuse me, coffee break. I did finish my November piece, and so there we are. It is very similar colors to the October piece, which, as those people who were sitting with me can tell you, I did complain about that little bit. I was just kind of grexing because they're not the most exciting colors to stitch, but even so, the final product is just absolutely beautiful. I do enjoy seeing them and the delicacy of it. And I love how it has kind of just that start of the winter holly berries, while also recognizing that this is kind of what plants look like in November. So I was able to get that done. I didn't start it at the farm. I think I'd already had the first couple of letters done, but was able to get it finished. And then just to keep myself accountable and on pace, I did start the November or the December piece as well. So this one is also longer. It's got more elements. I feel like she really went in for all of the extra pieces that go on the lettering. So it's going to be a little bit of a longer stitch than even November was, but that's okay. So my goal is to get that finished in December of this year. Whether or not it gets fully finished and up, we'll get to it when we get to it. I did think last night that I was going to get this fully finished and ready to show you, but I am being judicious with my fabric, and so I figured that would just, if I cut it, it would just make it a little bit harder to do the December piece, so I'm just going to keep them together until they're both done. And just as a reminder, these are patterns that are coming out of Christiane Dahlbeck's A Nice Half Year series. There are 6 in volume 1 and 6 in volume 2, of course. So I am, as always, just enjoying these pieces very, very much. So that was my November piece. And I actually do have 2 related fully finishes for you from that series. In my last video, I showed you April and May, which I had finished stitching, but I had not fully finished yet. So I have now taken care of that as well, and they'll be ready to go up when I am done, but it's just a fun chance to find a coordinating fabric and really accentuate something. So I love that this little pink polka dot really brings out the flower in the May. So, oh, and just as a reminder, in case anybody wasn't joining me before, the designer is German, as are the patterns. So that is why it is spelled that way rather than how we might spell it in English. Those were all of my, let me see. Oh, yes. So that was all of the stitching that I got done at the farm. I do have just a tiny little bit of stitching from another project to show you that I had started before. And this one is just an update on my Captain series. I am working on Captain Picard, and I think since the last time I saw you, I got most of the Enterprise done, as well as the outline for the saucer section. So all I have to do at this point is just the fill in, which I did take with me to the farm thinking I might want to do that while I was there. Wound up focusing on these other pieces, but it is good to have that just as kind of a little bit of mindless stitching that I can work on. Forgetting the name of the pattern and the designer off the top of my head, but I will, of course, put that in the description box below. But this is a series that I've been just slowly working on as I feel like it, and look forward to having those done for my snuggery downstairs. I think that's where they will go when they are done. And then I do also have one purchase to show you. I had kitted up a project from a new pattern by Clarke Craft. She was mentioning online, kind of lamenting the lack of Bonfire Night / Guy Fawkes Day patterns. And so she whipped out a couple of them right in the early start of November. And I went ahead and I bought my favorite of them, which is this Remember, Remember. I've got it all kitted up. I am planning to stitch it on, I just have a basic black Aida, including actually a needle minder that Roz sent me. So that is going to be my basic fabric. I took it with me thinking I might get started on it and didn't, but you know what? There is always time to stitch a pattern again later. I am thinking that what I'm going to do is modify it slightly, and I'm just going to put Remember, Remember, and then have the border go down below that. So I love all of the fireworks up at the top, but I think that will be what I do for this piece, and it'll get done at some point. But if anybody else agrees with Roz and me that there needs to be more Bonfire Night patterns, you can go check those out on her Etsy, which of course I'll link below. So thank you, Roz, for filling that gap in our pattern availability. All right. So I think that is the stitching that I have accomplished over the last month, and it may not seem like a huge amount, but on the other hand, for me, it's a goodly amount, and so I am perfectly happy with it. One of the other things that I have done is I also took a day last weekend, and it did unfortunately take quite a long time in that day, was I pulled out a huge bag of kind of paper products that I had been saving up for some time, and I turned them into Floss Drops. So what do I mean when I say that? If I had gotten a pretty birthday card or a pack of postcards or something else in which I receive something that has a pretty design on it, I would basically had been squirreling them away in a bag in order to turn those into Floss Drops. So for example, this is one that I did not do, in part so I can show it to you. This was an advent calendar that I've had in the past. And so what I will do is, because I think that these little houses are really pretty, I will disassemble this and I will cut out the pieces so that I can turn them into Floss Drops. And I think that that is just a really great way to kind of remember some of these things and highlight them without actually having to keep it. And also without feeling like you're just throwing something in the trash either. So like I said, I had a giant bag of things that had been put together. So they all just fell on the ground and I made a mess. That's okay. I made a whole lot of Floss Drops. I do also use playing cards. So this is like an Agatha Christie playing card set. I got one from Savannah. I've also got this coffee set. So I tend to put my DMC on the playing cards, and then I use Floss Drops for my variegated floss. So I also will use, I'm just making a mess here. I also will use things like bag tags that I find that are cute, or it could just be anything else. So I spent several hours kind of going through that big bag, cutting things down, getting my punches, doing that. So it was really nice to be able to see that kind of clutter reduced down in size and turned into something that I will be able to use for my crafting moving forward. I have definitely slowed down my acquisition of floss, and so these will keep me going for quite some time, I think. This is a postcard from Rhode Island. This is an advertisement for a production of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I got a bunch of Agatha Christie postcards in a box. So whatever it is that seems fun, it can turn into Floss Drops. So I have restocked my supply of those to use as I am acquiring. But again, this is going to last me for quite some time. So that was fun. Let's see. Speaking of advent calendars, I have 3 advent calendars for this year. If you've been with me before, you know that I love advent calendars, both opening them and also just creating and designing them and stitching them. But I decided to do something a little bit different this year, so I didn't buy any cross stitch advent calendars, but I did buy a couple of other ones, and I actually bought more than I realized. I bought one so early in the year last year that I forgot. I completely forgot that I had ordered it until I started getting notifications toward the end of the year that they were working on prep, by which time I had bought 2 others. So I have 3 advent calendars to open this year. Not planned, but I'm not going to not do it, of course. But what I did is I bought one that is a stationery set, I bought one that is a yarn set, and one that is kind of a quilting and sewing box. And so I'm not going to be filming kind of Flossmas, Vlogmas videos this year, but I think what I will do is I will post on Instagram every day. I'll open these up and show them off. So for those of you who enjoy seeing what comes out of these boxes, that way that content is available. And then once it's all done, because these are new companies for me, I will probably do just kind of a little bit of a review of the box and what my thoughts were. They were on, all of them were on the more expensive side. And so it's always worth hearing from somebody and seeing what you actually might receive to consider if it's something you want to buy next year. And I would say in all of this, I am not sponsored by any of these. These are things that I just bought for myself, but one sort of crafter and consumer to another, it's helpful to kind of actually get to see what you get in these so that you can make your own decisions about future purchases. So just quickly, I will kind of show you what they are. And so this one was from a company called Kinda Kawaii, and it is a bookstore and book themed stationery set. It is absolutely beautiful, very hefty. So I am excited. They have posted a couple of samples from it, and it looks like it's just going to be a treat to open throughout the month. So that is one that I will be posting. Let me get this out of the way here. And then the one that I forgot about because it went on sale, I think last April, maybe. It was very early in the year. This is a yarn advent box from the Fiber Fox, and it does, if I remember, has 24 mini skeins of yarn, and they were kind of, if I remember correctly, kind of like English garden kind of themed. So I'm excited to see those. I have not bought yarn from them before, so I am looking forward to that and kind of getting back into some of my crochet and yarn projects. And then the last one that I have is from Stitch Supply Co. And this is kind of a quilting and sewing box. And so again, another series of hobbies that I enjoy that are besides cross stitch. And so I thought I would branch out and try something new. So those are the advent calendars that I'll be opening this year. And I'll just post them, like I said, on Instagram if you want to follow along there. Okay, I think the last thing that I have to talk about is just a couple of the little books that I have been reading recently. I have had a couple of duds in terms of reading, and it does happen sometimes, right? You have really good high expectations for a book, or the premise sounds like it's right up your speed, and then you kind of start it and you're like, I'm really not into this after all. And I have long ago reached the point in life where if I am just not enjoying a book, I don't have to finish it. I think that that is absolutely something that many of us have to reach in our lives, because I was for many years if I started it, I had to finish it. And then it was just a miserable experience because I didn't want to be, or I was just delaying it, or it was putting me off from reading other things that I wanted to read. So I am 100% team, like, if this is just not something that's working for you, put it down and start reading something else, because there are always more books. So I had started a bunch of books, not a bunch, a couple of books that didn't go anywhere. it happens. But these were two that I did read. Starting with the one that barely took any time at all. I did pick this up at the farm from their gift shop, and this is The Little Book of Fika. I assume Fika. And this is about Swedish coffee breaks and kind of the ritual of focusing on coffee throughout the day, and the way that people integrate that into their home and their work life, and whether it is something that is a break for you personally or something that you do in the company of family and friends, coworkers. So it was, I mean, you could Google what Fika is and find out within just, moments the actual concept. Much of what is in this book is like nice quotes about books or about coffee and some things like that, or facts about coffee. And then there are also some recipes. And so this was something that absolutely goes very, very quickly when you're reading it. But I don't know. I just thought it was kind of fun to go through. Is an easy thing to read before I went to bed each night there at the farm. And I do like that idea of taking a coffee break. One of the things that I have purposefully built into my life is time in the morning to sit and drink a cup of coffee. So it's just a quiet moment where I'm sitting on the couch, cats are around, I've got my blankie on me around this time of year, and just sipping your coffee, not feeling like you're having to rush through it. So, in some ways, I feel like I do that a little bit myself already, but it was nice to know that there is an actual ritual and culture around that. So, just a tiny little book. The other book that I finished recently was On Cats, an anthology. And so this is a series that is pulled together just short, either short full pieces or excerpts from longer pieces about cats. So obviously for people who like cats, there are, I will tell you, a number of very sad stories. Of course, there are aspects of owning cats that do not work out or do bring you um, some pain and sadness throughout that process. But there are also a lot of really good examples of the joy and the pleasures that you get from having cats in your life, and the balance and why it is worth it to maybe go through that sadness at some point for the joy that you get before that point and the memories. So a lot of different pieces that were in here, obviously introduced by Margaret Atwood. It's got pieces from Ursula K. Le Guin, who wrote about her cat Pard. I enjoyed that one. I've read that one actually in another context. We've got John Keats. Nikola Tesla actually talks about kind of how he was inspired in some ways by seeing cats. A lot of different authors. We've got Lynn Truss and Ernest Hemingway, Edward Gorey, a number of people like that. So it was just it was really great to kind of, as I was actually sitting and drinking my coffee sometimes, reading these pieces. So just a very slim little volume, but if it's something that's interesting to you, it's just nice to have those little topical things sometimes. So those were two books that I have read and enjoyed recently, wanted to share with you. So that is my content for the day. I hope that you enjoyed this kind of little rush through what I have been doing in my creative life over the last month or so. Um, Looking toward having more of that kind of monthly content in the future, as well as some things that are wrapped around those holidays and this time of year. But let me know in the comment what you've been working on. What pace do you use when you're stitching? Do you feel like you have to really be motivated to be working on pieces really quickly, or do you just take your time and work on them as they come? It's always interesting to me how people approach their creative life, and so I'd love to hear from you on that. So I will wrap things up and I will see you again in the next video. Bye, everybody.